Hi everyone, welcome to Let's Break Taboos, Day 2. So it's Day 2 now of me serving as guinea pig for addressing these long-term physical challenges that I have. My physical challenges being that of numbness in my right hand and a lack of range of motion, a constriction through the shoulder, also in my right arm. I am in the process of trying to get myself up back to performance level after essentially a 2-year absence from the world of performing and, to be really honest, everyday practicing. And so I'm trying to see what kind of strategies I can use to troubleshoot this. Yesterday, I introduced this 4 phases exercise, which I've been engaged in. I won't tell you for how many painful minutes. I'm going to be honest here, I hate these exercises. I assign them to my students. I assign them to myself. They are really disgusting to do. And they're not disgusting in the sense of them requiring a lot of heavy muscle powers, actually totally the opposite. What I notice in doing them is that the more sensation I'm able to bring in, actually, the more the muscles are able to start to relax and to release. And we're talking about muscles that are chronically contracted, but that I'm not even aware of. So it's a kind of baseline level of muscle contraction that is able to start being brought down. But what is so disgusting is that it requires just time. There are no shortcuts. I can't will my way through. All I can do is just wait for my fingertip to start feeling things. And when it starts feeling things, it starts to feel things, and I have to notice those things, and I have to take those things in. And these are all things that I feel in my own life I've started to build in all sorts of shortcuts to get around doing. And I think probably in our modern day lives, we're all kind of spoiled in that way and used to not having to stop and just feel things anymore. Feel, what does the air feel like? Feel, what is it like to be hungry? What does it feel like to have sensations in the body that we have to take in? Things are convenient, things are fast, things are digitized, and these are all things that allow us to be protected away from having to feel all of these things. A pause for fun science fact number 1. One fun fact that I can already share regards simply the question of what does touch have to do with it? So what does touch have to do with movement at all? Still, it is an area where science doesn't have a perfect answer, but there are some clues that one can see in science. And one is provided by a very early study, a very old study done back in 1894 by Sherrington and Mott. They studied monkeys, and they studied monkeys in a way that perhaps would not pass muster these days anymore. Namely, they severed nerves in the arms of monkeys in order to see the effect on fine motor control in monkeys. And what they found is that they could sever all of these significant nerves running through a monkey's arm without any effect on the monkey's ability to pick things up, to grasp, to coordinate and move the fingers. But with the exception of one single nerve, when they severed the sensory nerve, namely the nerve that brings all the touch information from the fingertips up to the spinal cord and then up to the brain, when they severed that, the monkeys lost all ability to move. So what's touch got to do with it? It apparently has everything to do with it. Without touch, there is no movement of the fingertips. In music pedagogy, we are often trained just to think about the muscles, right? This is how the body and the motion is talked about. It's about muscle memory, it's about muscle strength, about muscle coordination. But from the evidence that I'm finding with my studies and also through doing these exercises in my own work and experience, I'm seeing that there is possibly a very key piece of the puzzle missing in talking about motion, namely that sensory experiencing of touch and how our body uses it. My PhD studies is all about trying to understand this, understand that relationship between touch and movement. So there's that evidence that actually we rely on touch to even be able to move. But how does that work exactly? So there's a big gap in our understanding of motion. And with my PhD, I'm hoping to fill the gap by examining the role of touch in motion. So from the exercise that I showed yesterday, we also noticed one very interesting further connection, and that is namely between touch and muscles, and muscle stiffness levels in particular. As I showed yesterday, when touch seems to be called in to lead a motion, it seems to have the effect of asking for muscle stiffness to reduce. And that ask was in me yesterday producing this kind of twitchiness in my thumb, where the muscles that seem to be used to activating were suddenly getting a signal not to activate. And there was this kind of confusion with the activation being automatic and yet a new signal coming in actually to shut down that kind of automatic activation. I've noticed that in doing this exercise, some of that twitchiness is reduced. I can actually still see it, but I think on the computer screen one sees always less than there is, interestingly enough. But it's reduced. And at the same time, the reduction in the muscle twitchiness seems to come together with less stiffness in the muscle and more feeling. So again, just noticing that relationship between sensation, touch leading the motion, muscle stiffness, and smoothness of motion. Alrighty, very practically now, how is this affecting my ability to play those false harmonics? Let's look at that. So, well, it's not perfect. I still hear some gaps, but I also have the feeling that there's less of this uncontrolled jumping of the bow off the string. And this is, after all, only day 2. So stay tuned in order to follow the next episode, and hopefully there'll be even more progress to be shown. So if after doing this, I notice that some tension starts to accumulate again in the thumb muscle, which radiates then into the hand. And if I just do this exercise again and I try to feel again the tip of the thumb leading and allow for some of this muscle stiffness again to be worked out. Let's see. It's frustrating. It's frustrating that the desire to do well, to perform, and to show what one can do in a performance often ends up working in this counterproductive way for the body, and that the desire for productivity causes the muscles simply to start grabbing on in order to produce that goal and attain that goal as fast, as quickly, and as directly as possible. And those muscles starting to grab means that actually this pathway of sensory input starts to get short-circuited again. I notice it every time. Every time that I turn on the camera, I start to grab more and to feel less. And so it will be part of the process then over the upcoming months to see if I can actually train my body to keep feeling even when the camera is on. And for that way of moving with, while staying in touch with feeling, for that to get somehow programmed in and to become something that doesn't fall by the wayside once there's a bit of pressure to perform. All right. But it's constant. It's a constant work in progress, I think. I think the inclination of the body under adrenaline for the muscles to start to contract is just a very deeply programmed one into our natural survival instincts. And the instinct that under adrenaline to shut down all of that sensory input, all that feeling, is also part of it. It's part of that instinct as well. Because, you know, you see the tiger in the woods, to be feeling things and still taking in sensory input is not the most practical thing when, in order to survive, what you need to do is just contract every muscle to start running away as quickly as possible, or climb a tree and start grabbing on, right? So how do we start to override that survival instinct in order to keep feeling even under pressure? All right, let's see. Deep breath. Well, I'm going to just keep giving it some time. I think the hand is so twitchy right now. We'll see. We'll see how things are still in the upcoming days and months. Well, that's going a little bit better. We'll see, and we'll just keep going down this path, and hopefully there will be continued progress over the upcoming days and months. Having yesterday shown the exercise of the 4 phases, I thought today I can show one more exercise that I have been busy with as well, and that I'm also going to assign to myself now in order to also address this problem of, this chronic problem that I have of numbness through my hands. And this exercise is one distinctly aimed actually at releasing tension through the thumb and at getting more sensation and ability of the thumb to lead through sensation of the thumb tip. And this exercise, and I'm going to put down my bow, involves simply taking the thumb, bringing the thumb tip to the tip of the second finger, or I should say index finger for the pianists out there. And then just allowing for the thumb tip to stroke along the inside of the index finger. And that's it. I'm going to hold my thumb tip a bit closer for you all to be able to see. So it's just this. I bring the tip of my thumb to the tip of the index finger, and then I'm going to stroke. And now with the image closer, you can see again how my thumb is shaking and twitching. And again, this is a good thing in that the thumb muscle at the base joints of the thumb, this muscle here, is being encouraged to soften and release. And that twitchiness comes from it being used to contracting, and now with this exercise being given some signals where it's being told actually it doesn't have to contract and it can release. And so the twitches are very fast contracting and releasing that's going on with the system trying to sort out what it's used to doing from this new information that it's getting in. So we'll see, just do this a couple of times. So this is what I'm going to also be busy with now for the next day or so. I mentioned that I would like for this program to be a discussion where people are encouraged and should feel free to mention their own physical challenges. And I would like for there to be space then for there to be some engagement in discussing people's physical challenges. The question is how to do this. I don't yet have a perfect answer, but I do encourage you at any rate right now to post any comments with any questions you might have, any mention of your own physical challenges. If you feel free to do so, you feel free to do it also on an anonymous basis. You can also send an email to me with any questions or any comments that you have if you would like for it to stay really anonymous. My email address is simply julia.tom@gmail.com. So I welcome any emails or any comments, questions to be either posted or sent to me directly. I will also then look for future episodes to select out any comments or questions that I think are particularly interesting or that I see coming across my in my comment box or in my email box on a more regular basis, and I will be happy to address them. Alrighty, so this was episode 2 of Let's Break Taboos. Please subscribe and please send me any comments, feedback, questions that you might have. I really look forward to hearing your responses and to starting a process of opening up this platform for a community-wide airing of these issues that we all as musicians are facing. Alrighty, till next time.